important, systemically important financial institutions, which I'll just call SIFIs, make it a little easier for us all to talk about that today. And then those entities that are designated as SIFIs. And then Title II, which deals with the resolution authority as the backup. And under Title I, these large institutions are, the first part of that really is they're subject to heightened supervision by the Federal Reserve Board. And that's critical. These entities are now subject to increased prudential standards, including increased capital, leverage limits, liquidity requirements, and stress tests. I'm sure Michael can talk about all those things over at Citi. And then Title I has this other very important provision that addresses our ability to require what we call living wills. How would these institutions be resolved if there was a large crisis? How would they be resolved under the bankruptcy code? The Title I process is jointly overseen by the FDIC and the Fed. And in November of 2011, our agencies promulgated a final rule which designated how this process would work. The FDIC actually also implemented a rule for large insured depository institutions over $50 billion, requiring them to provide plans on how they would be resolved under the FDI Act, which would be a different mechanism than under the bankruptcy code. Now, the two rules have been designed to work in tandem, and that will allow us to cover a full range of the business lines, legal entities, and capital structure combinations within these large firms. The FDIC and the Fed review the plans submitted, these living will plans under Section 165D of the Dodd-Frank Act, and may jointly find that they're not credible and would not facilitate an orderly liquidation under the bankruptcy code. The first plans actually were submitted by institutions over $250 billion last July. Institutions over $100 billion filed their plans this year in July. There were actually about 11 last year, 4 this year. And then in December of this year, we will have the remaining institutions, $50 billion and above, which is about 117, will be filing their plans. If the FDIC and the Fed do not find the plans credible, the companies will be required to submit a revised plan. If the company fails to submit a satisfactory revised plan, the Fed and the FDIC can impose stricter requirements. These can be things such as higher capital requirements, leverage or liquidity requirements, or restrictions on growth or activities. If the company fails to submit a satisfactory plan within 2 years of imposition of the stricter requirements, the Fed and the FDIC, then in consultation with the FSOC, would be able to jointly direct the company to divest certain assets or operations to facilitate the orderly resolution. The ultimate result of this process is that the plan should allow the firms to be resolved under the bankruptcy code. That's the standard that we're looking at when we review these plans. Now, following the review of the initial plans, which were filed in 2012, the agencies actually developed additional guidance which will provide benchmarks for the firms to address in their second round resolution plans. And those plans actually were submitted in October of this year, and we're actively reviewing those plans as we speak. The FDIC and the Fed's Title I authorities provide us with valuable insight into the inner workings of these complex institutions.